Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Gryffindor, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the mysteries behind Prisoner of Azkaban, Chapter 13, Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw.
Goodness gracious. Dust off your broomsticks is the perfect lead-in for today's episode.
It is.
This might be the best Quidditch match in the entire series.
You think so?
I think
this is the best one.
I think it's a really good one. I think I suppose that there's some stuff that goes down in future books, but I feel like as of the Umbridge era, it's like Harry is otherwise preoccupied.
Right. It shifts to Ron a bunch the next time we're having a lot of Quidditch.
Exactly, because we don't have any in Goblet of Fire at all because the Triwizard Tournament.
Well, there's the Quidditch World Cup.
Well, there's the Quidditch World Cup. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, the movies didn't seem necessary to depict any of that.
Oh my gosh, Ben, if they don't put the Quidditch World Cup in the TV remake, look, Goblet of Fire is the one they really need to focus on.
Goblet of Fire is it's such a fan favorite for the books, and it's probably like one of those things like where I feel like if you go through and take like bite-sized pieces from the movies, like I don't have as many like qualms with it as I do when I like watch it the whole way through.
Yeah.
Like when I pull clips, I'm usually like, this is not so bad. And the graveyard scene's pretty amazing.
The graveyard scene is great. There are things done very well, but there's no Quidditch World Cup. At least not the game itself. There's no Vila at all. There's no Ludo Bagman. There's no Winky. There's no blast-ended Scroots. There's no obstacles in the hedge maze other than the hedges. Like, where's the Acromantulas? Where's the Sphinx? Where's the Golden Mist?
I don't know.
They're not there.
They're not there.
They're not there.
We don't see them.
We don't see them.
But so anyway, yeah. So then by the time Half-Blood Prince rolls around, I know the sixth book in the series.
Yeah.
Harry at that point in time, I feel like his sights are set on much bigger goals. Like, it's not like he doesn't care about Quidditch, but it's like, there's big stuff afoot.
There's Horcruxes.
Yeah, there's Horcruxes.
Yeah.
The Felix Felicis chapter is kind of fun, so there's that. But I think that this one does a really good job.
That's still more of a Ron chapter, though.
It is a Ron chapter.
Yeah.
It's a fun trick on Harry's part, though.
It is. It's very sneaky, even if it kind of blows up in his face with Hermione.
Yes. But no, it's kind of interesting because looking at chapter 13, Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw, we have a depiction of Crookshanks kind of like curled up around a tree.
Yeah.
And so I literally wrote a little note here, kind of just being like self-aware, like something tells me Quidditch isn't going to be the main thing that happens in this chapter. And you think, because sometimes the chapters will do that where it's like, oh yeah, this is a Quidditch chapter. It's also the chapter where something else vitally important happens.
Something else vitally important happens. I know. It is the chapter art is like, it's cool, but boy, do I wish it was Quidditch.
Same here. It should just be Quidditch.
It should just be Quidditch.
It could just be Harry reaching for the snitch or something. Like, that would be completely fine.
It should 1,000,000% feature Harry and Cho, because Cho was going to be introduced in this chapter.
I know. Yeah, Cho is also it's one of the areas of like the whole saga where it's maybe like a little bit tricksy to know if it's just like Harry Potter's relationship training wheels. Like, it's supposed to sort of just like introduce you to the idea of Harry like being interested in anybody as like a romantic partner.
Right.
Because the whole arc with Cho Chang doesn't really like it, I don't know. Like, it's like you're rooting for it, but then it doesn't ever ultimately really like go anywhere.
It really doesn't. Like, he's gonna see her in this chapter, and this is like when he's gonna like start to have a bit of a crush on her,
right?
And basically think she's pretty and good at Quidditch, and then he will not actually say words to her until he's asking her to the Yule Ball.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's any part of what's going on here? Because I would say I've even forgotten a little how well, including in this chapter, Cedric Diggory is depicted as a human being. Do you think at all it's the case that like Cho is planted and designed as a character, because otherwise it's like you want Cedric to be innately good. He is like the victim that sort of like represents innocence and goodness being lost to Voldemort's plight. But then he still needs to be seen as like and I'm going to put this in extreme air quotes, like rival to Harry in the Triwizard Tournament.
Right.
And so it's like Crumb sort of has like his it's not really like adversarial, but like a standoffish nature.
Yeah.
And then Fleur sort of has like maybe a mildly self-absorbed, like, again, it's not really who she is, but like mildly self-absorbed like motif, if you will. And then Cedric's thing is that it's like he has to be good through and through, but we, the reader, still need to be rooting for Harry. So like our jealousy on Harry's behalf that he's dating Cho, it's like,
right.
Is that the setup, like the long game?
I feel that's definitely part of it. It's like a reason to like for you to prefer, for a reason for you, the reader, to root against Cedric, because like you like, you know, want Harry to succeed with Cho, and oh no, Cedric got there first. And
yes,
like then there's also like the whole school seems to be rooting for Cedric and not for Harry, and that feels unfair to you, the reader.
Right. Yes.
That Harry doesn't even want to compete. Like, what's going on?
I know.
Yeah.
But I just remember as a kid, like, you know, I think probably in the same capacity, it's like Harry's crush on Cho translated to my own crush on Cho, and so I wanted it to work.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Like,
I think what's like when I look back at it, like on the whole, like I feel like it is a very realistic depiction of how like a teenage romance can go.
That's fair.
Where
Yeah.
like you see a girl and you think she's pretty, and now she's all you can think about.
Yeah.
And then you finally say words to her, and oh my gosh, she kind of like reciprocates it a little, and that's so exciting. What are the odds? Oh my gosh. But then you actually go to talk, and it's like, well, mate, you know, we don't really have a lot to say. It's really awkward. Okay.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Like somebody catches your eye, but it's like obviously there has to be more to it than that.
Right.
Like the chemistry has to be good.
Yes.
And so that's and that's fair. I mean, and I think it is a vital thing to include in a story about adolescence and growing up and balancing both like Harry's, you know, like the unique set of circumstances that are planted upon him by way of the prophecy and being the chosen one, with also the typical trials and tribulations of just being a teenager.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like Order of the Phoenix, I think hits the nail on the head. You know, he's just sort of like in that angsty, moody, frustrated.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's balance between like world-ending dilemmas and governmental failure with also just being 15.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot that's kind of woven in there. So I know that's a little bit of a detour, but
I know. But I agree. It's like I always just sort of wish that like Harry and Cho had like been able to like date happily for any period of time instead of it being like because of how long and drawn out it is. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah.
It's going to start in this chapter and not really be fully resolved until like the end of Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah, we make it at least until February of that school year, which means like Voldemort's really, you know, his plan's starting to really be cooking as he gets towards the the final 9 weeks of the year.
Right. They have their awkward date at the coffee shop, and then Marietta turns in Dumbledore's army, and that's sort of the final straw.
That's pretty much
But
it.
it's like, but it starts here, and we're not going to get like a full resolution, quote unquote, breakup, as if they're ever even really together until that point in Order of the Phoenix.
Yeah,
it's just very long.
I mean, just to use like a very rough measuring stick, that's going to give us maybe somewhere in the proximity of like 1,400 pages of like Harry Potter's existence.
Yes.
To get to a point where basically nothing happens. So.
I think it feels this. I think maybe this is the point, but I think it reminds me a lot of my frustration with Sirius as a character.
Okay.
And the way his character gets treated, because like Sirius is obviously like a huge focus in this book. He is the prisoner of Azkaban.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, we finally solved the mystery. Sirius is back. And then he's the main focus of this book. And then he's like barely in the fourth book and barely in the fifth book. And then he dies. It's like, it's almost the same thing. It's just like Harry, like it's this long arc with someone and maybe that's the point. It's like, there's these people in Harry's life who, like, if things were just going well, they would just end up better, and he would have a good relationship with them.
Yes.
But Voldemort keeps cutting. I mean, maybe that's really the point. Maybe I'm figuring out. It's like the reason he can't be happy with Cho is Voldemort. The reason he can't be happy with Sirius is Voldemort. Yeah, it's like okay.
Yeah, it's like this is the way.
This is the problem. This is the problem.
Yes, yeah. It's like he's not allowed to have the life that he absolutely deserves.
Right.
And that is in a way, I mean, other than the obvious other hateful, terrible, mean, dangerous, evil things that Voldemort does, it's like this is this other weird ripple effect. It's the curse that is almost like following Harry everywhere he goes. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to, I mean, that's the point of what we're doing, is to look at it through that lens. Why is it done this way?
Yes.
That sort of makes sense.
I think Hermione has this sort of breaking point in, I don't know if it's Half-Blood Prince or Deathly Hallows, but she's just like, don't you see, Harry? It's just all Voldemort. You've got to stop him, you know?
Right, yes.
It's all down to him at the end of the day. All these bad things, all this and that.
We're not going to get to live until it's over.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, neither can live while the other survives.
Crap. There it is. That was completely unplanned.
Oh, that was so
really
good.
Anyway, should we talk about this chapter?
Yes, we absolutely should.
We should. So it starts off, it looked like the end of Ron and Hermione's friendship, which I love that as a sentence because they get married.
So nope. Silly narrator person, you have no idea.
I gotta say though, and it's like, I'm kind of mad. I'm so frustrated with both of them in this chapter because, like, on the one hand, Ron is totally right. Like, all the evidence points to Crookshanks. Crookshanks has absolutely been trying to eat Scabbers, and like Hermione is just being so stubborn about it.
That's the thing, is that, like, yeah, I think that there's a really big, it's almost like out of character for Hermione how things are unfolding. Like, I think that Hermione clearly has a soft spot for Crookshanks, and there's clearly like this, you know, kinship that is going on between the two of them, and maybe they're relating in some capacity, some way, like whatever. But based on like what we eventually know, it's almost like, well, gosh, I wish that Crookshanks had just eaten Scabbers, because then Wormtail would be gone.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he would have died at the hands of a cat.
Right.
And it would have been like cruel justice. But in the meantime, it's like, as of what the characters in the book know at this point, it does look an awful lot like Crookshanks ate Scabbers, and Hermione is being oddly callous about it.
She is being oddly callous about it. Like, she is just not willing to give an inch. And it's like, you, the reader, especially on your second pass, are like, I feel like I'm only really give her a pass because I know Scabbers is Wormtail, and like and she is correct that he was not eaten, but like, it certainly looks that way. It's supposed to look that way. And like beyond even this situation, Crookshanks has tried to eat Scabbers several times.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And then on the other hand, Ron is just being such a butthead about it, though. Like it is true, but it is also, one, not Hermione's fault that Crookshanks ate Scabbers, and two, like, you didn't even like Scabbers. So like, maybe cut her some slack, bro.
I know. The other thing that's always interesting about this, especially with Ron and Hermione in particular, is like, you can't tell if there's like a thin line between love and hate that's happening between the two of them there, where it's like neither of them is really at the age, and I mean, they're only 13 to be fair, so like, this is not something they'd be like well equipped for, is like handling the feelings that they potentially might have for each other.
Right.
But it does feel like maybe some of like whatever that energy is what constantly fuels their feuds, which, I mean, I think is my more genuine take on Ron and Hermione's relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I'll be like, oh yeah, Team Hermione, like Ron and Hermione are always fighting. It's so annoying. But like, I mean, if I'm being actually honest about how I feel about it, I think that's probably more of what's going on here.
Probably.
It's like Ron is more upset that like Hermione has this animal who's attacking something that is his, even though he never really liked Scabbers. He's taking it personally because it's like an agent of Hermione's is interacting with him negatively, which is causing a wedge, which is frustrating him because he doesn't want there to be a wedge, but he doesn't know what that means. And so the end result is like, I'm mad at you, but it's
right.
like, no, you like her. Like,
right.
Is what's happening. I think.
Right. I mean, yeah, I can see it. Just like he wants her to feel sorry for him, and instead she's making him feel worse.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, Hermione is maintaining fiercely that Ron had no proof that Crookshanks had eaten Scabbers. This is again, you know, it's like, this is one of those instances where they say, like, if you hear hoof beats, think horses, not zebras.
Right.
Like chances are it's not zebras that are
Right.
running up here. This is
Occam's
that
razor.
Yeah. This is that rare occasion where it's like, not zebras.
It's zebras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's weird stuff the foot.
There's weird stuff the foot. But like, yeah, you're right. It's like you should assume that the cat ate the rat, not that the rat is a human.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who's been living with you and your family for a long time.
Right. Yes. Who's just.
But yeah, Hermione's theory that Ron had been prejudiced against her cat ever since Crookshanks had landed on Ron's head at the magical menagerie. This is one of those things where it's like, how big of an incident was that really? Like,
Yeah.
it's like the cat landed on your head. That's not, I mean, that is so not grounds for a nearly half year long feud.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, it is not. So I think it's just more like inventing reasons because they just are both being so stubborn.
Yes, they are.
But so yeah, it's still surprising how seriously Ron takes the loss of his rat. Fred points out you're always saying how boring Scabbers is, to which I was like, yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then Ron does point out that he bit Goyle for us once. Remember, Harry? And it's like that one scene. It never makes sense to me. Like I do not understand why Peter helps them in that situation.
Okay, I was thinking about this a little bit because I think that you could have a slight generational thing going on, where it's possible that like Peter knew Goyle Sr. because like eventually in the graveyard, like Goyle's presumably father shows up, to support Voldemort.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if Peter has if they're both on the same side, is there a chance that they're sort of like at each other's throats in some way, shape, or form? And Peter's like, I actually know who you are, and I don't like your dad, so I'm gonna use this moment to.
That's as much of a reason as I can come up with.
Yeah.
I mean,
so yeah, maybe some type of standing rivalry.
Yeah,
of sorts.
I guess.
To be Voldemort's number 4 person.
But did the other Death Eaters know about Wormtail being the spy?
Well, that's the thing, is that maybe Peter knows more about what's going on with the Death Eaters than Peter is able to reveal to them. So
I guess that could be the case. Peter knows about Goyle, but I don't think Goyle knows about Wormtail because Lucius thinks it was Sirius because he tells Malfoy what Sirius did.
You're right. Yeah. Because Malfoy has that line I'd want revenge if I was you. You're right. Yeah. So I think it's more likely that Peter knew that Goyle was a Death Eater, and I mean I'm just inventing wildly right now, but maybe Goyle did something that was screwing with Peter's plan or something, and Peter didn't take kindly to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my backstory.
Right. Yeah. It's like a rogue thing where Peter sort of quote unquote helps. Bites somebody. I don't know.
I know.
It doesn't make sense.
It's such a ridiculously low bar, so I love Fred's response of his finest hour. Let the scar on Goyle's finger stand as a lasting tribute to his memory. It's yeah. Okay.
Yep. Probably was his finest hour, really.
I know.
Let's see. So then Harry offers to let Ron ride the Firebolt as a way to cheer him up, which is a very nice offer. I was like, that's actually a pretty good method of cheering up, and it definitely works. Ron is very excited about it. And then they head down to, this I thought was odd. They head down to the Quidditch pitch, and Madam Hooch is still watching, and she takes it in her hands to take off to give them the benefit of her professional opinion, to which I'm like, did she not help strip it down and check it for stuff, right? Has she not been handling it for the last month and a half?
I am pretty sure that McGonagall specifically says Madam Hooch is one of the people who is working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But she's acting like she's never held it before. And then she gets all she starts to wax poetic about it. And then when she starts this I think this is interesting. Oh, the Firebolt is here. Is it just are we just forgetting about the Nimbus? And so that she's like, oh, the Nimbus series has a fault. It's a slight list to the tail end. And it's this is the first time anyone has said a single negative thing about the Nimbus 2000 ever.
No, yeah, it is otherwise a seemingly perfect broom.
Exactly. Otherwise, perfect broom. But hold on. Over time, give it enough time. There's a minor, tiny problem.
A slight list. Whatever
a slight list to the tail end.
Does it kind of drags to one side, maybe?
Yeah, they develop a drag after a few years.
Okay, yep, there we go.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah. I do have a little piece of trivia here that I outlined, though. They've updated the handle, too, a bit slimmer than the clean sweeps. Reminds me of the old silver arrows. A pity they've stopped making them. I learned to fly on one, which I feel like that is a piece of trivia right there. It's what was Madam Hooch's first or what broomstick did Madam Hooch learn to fly on?
Silver arrows.
Silver arrows.
Yeah.
Would you have that?
I think I do have silver arrows. I know that
No
one. Because I love that
way.
name. I love silver arrows as a name. It's like, that's a good broomstick name.
It is a fantastic broomstick. And we actually made a joke in last week's video about Oliver Wood, about how let's see, which brand of broomstick, you're like the Skype of broomsticks was like the joke we made. And they were like, but Zoom is a better name anyway. And I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, Zoom would be a great name for a broomstick. The Zoom broomstick.
Can I just say though, Ben?
Yeah.
I was looking through some of the comments on our Firebolt chapter.
Yeah.
People were not as people were more pro footrests on broomsticks than I would have expected.
Truly. Wow.
I know. To which I was looking at the comments and I feel like I felt like perhaps misunderstood. Because people were saying like things along the lines of like, I don't think of it as like training wheels. It's more like a luxury add-on, or like, it can go 150 miles an hour. I definitely want the foot reps for the safety. And it's like, but you guys I think you're agreeing. It's like I agree. Yes, it's a luxury upgrade, right? But like, I'm not driving an Escalade down I'm not racing my Escalade,
Oh, sure.
Like
yes.
the point isn't luxury, it's a sport.
Yes.
Like if this is my daily driver broom, if I was riding this to work, absolutely I want the footrests.
Right.
Like
right.
for comfort's sake, obviously it's more comfortable.
Yes.
That's not the point. This is a sport. The point is like balance and skill and flying. Like you are supposed to be a step above the average broomstick.
Yeah. No, I follow what you're saying exactly. I think that there's a very good point here where it's like oh man, what was the example I was going to give? It just went clean out of my brain. Hang on. I can pull it back. I know I can do this. Think. Oh, yes. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I think like in the sport of triathlons, for example, if you've ever seen a triathlon bike,
okay,
they are built for aerodynamics.
Okay.
They like every single thing, like the frame is molded such that like it's got like space for like the wheel to rotate so that there is like as minimal like drag as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can have like what's called aero bars, which is like where you like literally like lean over the front of the bike to like lessen your like wind resistance. The helmets they frequently wear are like these big long like teardrop like cones.
Yeah,
almost.
like aerodynamic things. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll even wear like a face shield versus like sunglasses for the exact same reason. So like it's one of those things, but I would be willing to bet anybody who loves just riding their bike would never want to go out on one of those for like a joyride.
Right.
Like for the sake of having fun. Like it's the difference between the fierceness of competition and like the subtlety of just like enjoying your craft. And yeah, so I think that that's the line I presume that you're living on.
Yes. That it's more a matter of like, because it's like a sport and because it's like an athletic endeavor, the point is that it should be a little bit harder to ride.
Right.
Like you shouldn't like, it's not a matter of comfort. I agree they're more comfortable. And if I just had, like a cruising broom, that's what I would want.
Right. Yeah. For like a, like a nice afternoon ride on the parkway.
Exactly. Right. And then I feel like other people were like, it can go 150 miles an hour. I definitely want the footrest for safety. And I'm like to me, like this is already a game that's played at high speeds, 50 feet in the air without helmets while you're trying to dodge cannonballs. So I feel like safety left the conversation a while ago.
Like we're maybe splitting hairs.
We're maybe splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
And also, just because it can go 150 miles an hour doesn't mean you have to be flying it at 150 miles an hour.
That's true.
Right? Like, I doubt you've ever driven your car at its top speed.
Right.
Like, it can go a lot faster than you normally drive.
Yeah, not recommended.
Not recommended. Yeah. Not safe, but it can do it.
It can.
It could if you push that pedal down and just had a nice long straightaway. But I don't think that's what Harry's doing here. So I stand like, if you like the footrest, good for you. Someone was also posting over and over, copy and pasting like a little blip from Pottermore where it's like, or Wizarding World, where like out of universe, not in the books, but I suppose technically canon, it talks about the creator of the broomstick, or the Firebolt, who did include footrests on it. I'm like, I guess it's canon. I don't know.
Okay.
Even though it's clearly added after the books were written and not depicted in the chapter art, nor ever mentioned in the books. But anyway, that's my...
So I think nerves have been struck in both directions.
All I'm saying is, if you like the footrests, that's fine. But I think for the sake of Quidditch and the sport, I still think they just shouldn't be a part of it. I think it's about being balanced and having to do, like, people are saying, like, well, would it be more aerodynamic because otherwise your legs would hang down? Like, no. Like, you rest your legs up on the broom if you're trying to be aerodynamic. You have to position yourself on the broom. It's hard to do. That's the point. You have to be good at it.
I think of it as like a little like ankle curl type thing.
I think of an ankle curl.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
However, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that we are now also splitting hairs over something that I think we all can agree we all enjoy.
I know. Like, Quidditch is fun. I love the Quidditch chapters. Like, even when we were writing the Quidditch chapters for like the what if, it was like, I don't have to put this in here. We could just skip the Quidditch match.
I'm doing
but guess what? We're doing it, and I'm getting into it.
Yes. Yeah, we got to.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, anyway.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. Let's just continue on. Because next up, we are introduced for the first time ever to Cho Chang, who Oliver Wood is just Oliver Wooding all over about.
Yes.
He is just like, their best player made a full recovery. I can't believe it. We're going to have to play them like that.
I know. No, this is. It's also kind of interesting as well because like Cho is quite good, but the reason we've never seen her in action before is because I think last year in Chamber of Secrets the match is canceled, and then the year prior it's the match that Harry would miss because of it's that final match of the year.
Yeah, when he's knocked out from the Philosopher's Stone shenanigans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a very real possibility that Cho Chang is the one who is playing as a second year, which would be quite impressive.
That would be impressive, yeah.
And won against Gryffindor in like one of the biggest defeats in 300 years. So
yes, she would have been delivering the final blow. So there is that. There's also, though, we know that the last match Ravenclaw played was against Slytherin, and now Oliver is bringing up, like, I've just found out who they're playing as Seeker. Even the way he phrases that makes it sound like they have a different person they could play as Seeker.
Yes, you're right.
Right?
Yes,
Which is interesting because it means that Ravenclaw has like substitutes or reserves, unlike Oliver Wood ever seems to be willing to do for the Gryffindor team.
Maybe Oliver's whole thing is like you perform at optimum or not at all. Like,
well, but you'd say that, Ben, but I think we put this in the video last week about Oliver Wood, is that during Harry's first game, Lee Jordan says, nice move by Alicia Spinnet, just a reserve last year.
Yeah,
and we know Oliver was the captain that year. So I don't know why he refuses to have substitutes. Anyway, the point is, we were giving Draco credit for having beaten Cho. But it's possible that if she's injured, that maybe Draco was beating a Ravenclaw team that was down Cho Chang.
Oh, good point. I do suspect that that's likely what happened, especially based on the phrasing that it absolutely seems like Cho was coming back from whatever injury she was dealing with. So, okay. That tracks.
Yeah.
That tracks. I can definitely get on board with that. I think this must be her first game back, which is too bad for her.
But it's also like it's just like a shadow dig at Draco.
Yes. Yeah. It's like that time we were like, okay, props to Draco. It's like,
well, maybe not.
Maybe not 100% props.
Maybe not. Yeah. Also, it's like he brings up like she rides a Comet 260, which is going to look like a joke next to the Firebolt, as if like last year they weren't all like they ride Nimbus 2001s. We're all going to look like jokes next to them. You know, like wouldn't the Comet 260 look like a joke next to the Nimbus 2001 as well?
Certainly.
Almost certainly.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
They make a big deal about the Firebolt in this chapter.
They sure do.
Like the reverence around it is massive.
It's like he got a Ferrari or something.
It is like that. Yeah. So this was an interesting thing as well, though. So moving on down the page, though, because this is just still at practice where he's talking about Cho being the Seeker. So this is not like during gameplay or anything. Harry finally gets to mount the Firebolt, kicked off from the ground. It says it was better than he had ever dreamed. The Firebolt turned with the lightest touch. It seemed to obey his thoughts rather than his grip.
Yeah.
So I have a cool theory here.
Okay.
That I just discovered today. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe this could be something that's going on there. We've talked before on the Super Carlin Brothers channel about the potential for broomsticks to have cores similar to wands.
Wands, yeah.
And so what you would have is like the wood, of course, playing some type of role in the performance of the broomstick, and then the core would also add like some accompanying characteristics. And so when I read that phrase, it seemed to obey his thoughts rather than his grip. I was like, are there any magical beasts in the wizarding wizarding world rather that are capable of reading minds? And in fact, there is. It is the Wampus Cat.
The Wampus Cat from America.
From America.
From the Ilvermorny houses.
Yes.
The six-legged panther.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Look at you. You're all over it. Yeah, so the Wampus Cat does have the ability to like read minds. And I was like, it would be really curious if this is what is the core of the Firebolt.
That would be super interesting.
Wouldn't it be fascinating though? Because like if it can read your mind and it's using some of that magic.
I want to look up more facts about Wampus Cats all of a sudden.
Okay,
Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on. Do a quick Google search here. Wampus Cat. Hold, please. Somewhat resembling the mundane mountain lion or cougar in size and appearance, the Wampus Cat was native to the Appalachian Mountains.
Hey, that's where we live.
That's where we live. It could walk on its hind legs, outrun arrows, and its yellow eyes were reputed to have the power of both hypnosis and legilimency. The Wampus Cat was fast, strong, and almost impossible to kill. The Cherokee had a most extensive studied the Wampus Cat, with whom they shared their native region, and only they had ever succeeded in producing Wampus Cat hair for use as a wand core. Oh, that's interesting.
How about that?
That means, like, I wonder, like, for how long, you know?
I have no idea.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that it's used for a core at all feels like closer to possible than not.
Absolutely. It seems like it is a usable substance for wand core, which to me means it's usable for broom core, if that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're building theories on top of theories that are not otherwise confirmed anywhere. But I like it as headcanon because I do feel like there's the reality of the fact that like with the wands, and I feel like this is what our argument was in the video. It's kind of like they basically, I think Ollivander says a witch or wizard can channel magic through any object.
Yeah.
So it's like you could pick up a carrot and you know, I mean, Voldemort or Dumbledore, you know, someone deeply powerful might be able to get it to cast a spell.
Right.
It may not be the best version of it compared to with their own wands or even just a wand that has a core, but like that's channeling magic. So in my mind, it's almost like it's combining the wood and the core that really like takes it from a stick into that next tier of like magical creation.
Right.
And so I feel like the same would be true. You know, it's like if you were to go and like break a branch off of a tree, it's like, you know, could you just fly that branch? It's like at least off the cuff, I would say like not well, you know, maybe you could get it to fly more than none. I'm imagining almost like jumping off of like a couch holding like an umbrella over your head. It's like,
right.
You know, is it going to add drag to your fall? It's like, yes, but it's not a parachute.
Right. Yeah. It's not safe.
Right.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like you have to imbibe the wood with something has to be done to it in order to take it to that next level to where it's now like a bona fide vehicle.
Boy, that'd be, yeah. And it'd be super interesting, if it's literally reading his thoughts.
Yeah. Because I mean, you could easily see where that relationship. I mean, it's like we've kind of regarded the brooms as like quasi like living creatures that have like a degree of sentience maybe, and you know that's how wands are described, at least in a very similar capacity.
Yep.
But for something like a broomstick, it's like maybe Wampus hair doesn't make for really great wand cores because of its magical properties. But if you're delivering this kind of magic into something that you need to navigate with that does have to respond to your every movement, it's like then it's turning as you want it to turn. It's reacting in unison with your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I also keep thinking that like it seems like it has such a high top speed that it seems unlikely that it would be like so like the handling would be so well.
Oh, sure.
You know,
yeah.
but like when I think of a cat, like switching direction at top speed, like doesn't seem that hard.
It's kind of like what they seem to do.
Yeah, it seems like what they do. So yeah, I like it. I like it. Wampus hair for Firebolt.
Yes, there we go.
Boom. There you go. All right. Either way, they had a fantastic practice. Wood didn't have a single criticism to make, which, as George Weasley pointed out, was a first, which I think is super interesting that no matter what, no matter how good the team does, Wood normally has things he needs to correct them about. But then he also confronts Harry again, said, "You sorted out your Dementor problem, haven't you?" Like, that's the only thing he thinks that can stop them tomorrow is maybe Dementors. But I love that he doesn't consider Cho Chang's appearance to be a problem at all.
Yes.
He doesn't account for how pretty Cho is.
How pretty. that flowing black hair.
Woo.
I know, you got to watch out. The other thing that's happening during this practice that I took note of is the fact that basically Wood calls out and he's like, "Harry, I'm letting the snitch out." And it says that within 10 seconds, he had caught it tightly in his hand. And then he let it go. The team cheers. And then he gave it a minute's head start, then tore after it, weaving in and out of the others, and spotted it lurking near Katie Bell's knee, looped her easily, and caught it again. This is like one of those things where the snitch that Harry notably catches in his first ever match has the flesh memory attached to Harry himself, which is what would ultimately allow it to reveal the message, "I open at the close." And part of the details that, like, obviously they don't reveal in front of Scrimgeour is that he caught it with his mouth. So it's not his hand that needs to touch it. It's like his lips that can get the message to, show itself or whatever. They say, I think, like, nobody ever handles the snitch prior to its release during the game. This speed at which he's catching the snitch feels almost like the practice snitch must be considerably slower than the actual. I think
that has to be the case.
Yeah, like they're not using like the capital S snitch. They're using like, we got a box of these down at Play It Again Sports.
Yeah.
Snitch.
For sure.
Yeah. Used tennis balls.
Used snitches.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like even I think about the one like James always like is catching.
Right.
It's like carries around his pocket like that. That snitch is not your regular. Because I mean he lets it go and catches it again. It's not like flying off immediately the way it's supposed to.
The way it's supposed to. Yeah. I always think about that like very similar to like him holding like a golf ball. Like as if like everybody else would be like, "Dude, why are you carrying a golf ball around?" He's like, "I'm really good at golf.
Check this out."
They're like, "Okay, it's really not that cool."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Let's see. Then Fred points out that the Dementors aren't going to turn up because Dumbledore would go ballistic, which I feel like is the actual truth. Like that, Oliver seems so concerned they're going to show up, and I'm like, dude, don't you think Dumbledore's on it?
Oh, yeah.
Although it's possible Dumbledore doesn't even show up to this match.
I guess that's true.
Which I think later on, I think it like alludes to him not being there.
I think you're right because I'm pretty sure McGonagall is shouting at the Slytherins for their prank, and she says that she'll be speaking to Dumbledore about this. Make no mistake. So yeah. So he won't be there.
So he's not there. I can't believe it.
What is he so busy with?
What is he doing? Yeah, unbelievable. And then the next page, Madam Hooch, got to be the least effective member of staff. I mean, she's out here literally supposed to be guarding Harry, watching their star pupil, making sure that Sirius Black doesn't come and attack him. And she falls asleep watching them. And not for nothing, Harry literally runs into Sirius Black 1 minute later.
I know.
I'm like, Madam Hooch,
come on.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be escorting these boys around? Like, geez.
It's like I want to compare it to sleeping on the job. But you were literally
because you were
sleeping on the job. Yep, I know. No, it's really hilarious. So basically, she goes out there to have her own fanfare over Harry's new broomstick, and then fails to complete her mission of making sure he's safe.
Yes, and then also I know. It's just like, Madam Hooch, what are you doing? Then she does not escort them back to the castle, even though she's supposed to be making sure Harry doesn't run into Sirius Black. He sees him anyway. So not that any of them are aware of that. But it is what happens. And not that it's a threat, but it is what she's supposed to be stopping, and she doesn't.
I know. I guess a piece of what's going on here is that Sirius is preparing himself for his breakage into the castle.
Yeah.
For this not for this evening.
Not for this evening.
So maybe he's just watching. I wonder if he just wanted to see Harry on the broomstick.
Probably. He's like, oh, finally, I gave it to him at Christmas. What's taking so long?
I wonder if he doesn't like Quidditch as much as James did.
Gosh.
Did I choose wrongly?
Man.
Should I got in that golden cauldron?
That'd be so funny. It's like, it's about time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe he's more into potions like Lily was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of sad when you think about it like that. Like, what kind of gift would he want?
I know.
One more like James or one more like Lily?
One more like James, one more like Lily. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, Harry actually, you know what? I was about to like mention Harry's like instincts to like notice something in the bushes there. He has a rare, I think I skipped this earlier. Harry has a rare bad instinct earlier in this chapter.
Oh, lay it on me.
It says, personally, Harry was sure Crookshanks had eaten Scabbers. Which is like, it's like, that is like, normally Harry is onto this sort of stuff.
Yes.
Like, he is not fooled all the way, but he is like, nope, I'm pretty sure about this. And it's like, actually, you're wrong, sir.
He is wrong.
Actually,
he is
wrong.
wrong. There's a piece of me that thinks Harry literally, when it comes to the Crookshanks Scabber situation, simply does not care. He's like, I just want my friends to get along. This is really annoying.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Crookshanks did it. I saw the blood. There were cat hairs. Hermione,
several murder attempts.
Yes, yeah. It's like, I mean, they've been chasing each other.
Yeah.
Notably, one has been chasing the other.
Notably, one has been chasing the other. Yep. So anyway, he thinks he sees something in the trees, casts Lumos, and I guess Sirius is able to withdraw fast enough to just reveal Crookshanks by the edge of the woods there.
Oh, okay. I guess the other thing that could be potentially happening is maybe Crookshanks is passing over the passwords at this moment.
Could be.
Collected from Neville.
Yeah.
So that could be a reason why they'd be hanging out.
Yes, that could be what's happening right
pals.
here.
Yep.
Then Ron gets all mad at Crookshanks, says probably washing down Scabbers with a couple of birds now, as if he's also against Crookshanks eating just birds. Okay.
Like, I love those birds, okay?
I know. Come on, Crookshanks.
They were my favorite birds.
They were my favorite birds.
Wow, that was the worst British accent I've ever done in my entire life.
Solid.
Thanks.
Interestingly, there it says Harry was sure the eyes had belonged to the Grim, and interesting, like Sirius is there, but this would be a one time where he thinks he has been in the presence of the Grim without there being a like near-death experience.
Oh,
Like
sure.
when he saw it at Magnolia Crescent, the night bus shows up and almost kills him. And then when he sees it during the Quidditch match, he falls and almost dies. But then he later classifies these both as like near-death experiences.
I know. The night bus feels like a reach to me.
Absolutely.
Anyway, like you didn't mean to call that method of transportation. However, you did just do the required act. And therefore, it's like you were surprised by what happens. But if you were just calling it, then that's what you would do anyway.
That's what you'd do. And it's like, so you'd think like retroactively you could realize that I wasn't in danger by that.
Right. Which I think is maybe a little bit the point.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like right now we're supposed to think it's dangerous and eventually we'll know it's not. And then in reality, it never was.
Never was. Yeah.
Guys, we need to take a brief pause right there to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Shopify. And boy, howdy, I'm not even sure where to begin. I remember graduating from college and just being full of aspirations to become an entrepreneur. I had so many ideas, like a device that could spiral cut hot dogs for you, just easy peasy for the perfect dog. And I'll be honest with you, I had no idea how to make that particular concept a reality. Like, where do you even begin? And spoilers, I still don't know. However, I will tell you what I have learned throughout the years is how to take ideas that are already there and make them available for purchase on the interweb. And that is thanks to Shopify. In case you are unaware, Shopify is an e-commerce platform that makes designing your webpage, setting up the store, and making your first sale a breeze. But the best part is, after that first sale, Shopify scales with you as you grow. So it is the perfect online tool, whether you're making tens of sales, hundreds, or even thousands monthly. And one thing you might not know about me is that I am a data person, and boy, does Shopify have data. So if you want to know how many hot dog spiralizers you sold between May 29th and July 5th, that's prime dog season, by the way, in case you were unaware, it can do that in the blink of an eye. And the answer to that question, by the way, is 0, because I still don't know how to make hot dog spiralizers. But if I did, boy, would I know how to sell them. Y'all, upgrade your business and get the same checkout that we use with Shopify. You can sign up now for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Griffin. That's all lowercase. Again, go to shopify.com/Griffin to upgrade your selling today. One last time, shopify.com/Griffin. Link is in the description down below.
But this time, nothing of anything happens. He just sees it, and then the moment passes. Anyway, the next morning, they give the honor guard of the Firebolt down to breakfast, where the Slytherin team were all looking thunderstruck, which to me, I'm surprised they didn't know.
I am a little bit also surprised that
Yeah.
they didn't know. Yeah, maybe this is like one of those things where it's like when it's your opposition, it's so like worst case scenario that like this would have happened, that it's like, no, there's no, who would have bought him a Firebolt?
Right.
Like,
I can see them like hearing the rumors, but being like, it can't be true.
it can't
No
be.
way.
Yeah.
But and now they're like, maybe it's like more like their worst fears are being confirmed.
Yes.
Everyone comes over, so we get another minor interaction with Cedric to congratulate Harry on having acquired such a superb replacement.
I know. Yes. I highlighted that and just said, oh dear, sweet Cedric.
Yep.
Like just the fact that he's like, you got this like upperclassman jock guy who's so cool, and he like beat Harry on the other broomstick. It was like when the Nimbus was destroyed. He's coming over just to be like, hey man, just want to say congrats. It's like, you're just a nice person,
Just
aren't
a nice
you?
guy. On the other hand, Percy comes up and says that he's got a bet with Penelope, 10 galleons on the outcome of the match, but then quickly adds, better win, Harry. I don't have 10 galleons, which is like surprising dishonesty by Percy. It's like a little unethical bet,
It is absolutely an unethical bet. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, if you win, you have to give me 10 galleons.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like if you, man, I said this so wrong. If Penelope ends up winning the bet, he's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I don't have 10 galleons.
He's definitely planning on just being like, oh, I don't have it. Sorry about that. But fun, what? We'll just brush it aside.
It was just a laugh.
Just a
wasn't it?
laugh, Yeah. But it sounds like upon winning, he intends to collect.
He does intend to collect.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I just that whole situation seems mildly out of character, and 10 galleons, like it seems like
A lot.
a big bet.
Big bet.
Like Mr. Weasley next year at the Quidditch World Cup, I think puts a galleon on Ireland winning.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, make it interesting. Like, sure. And then here he is. It's like high school Quidditch, and he's betting more than the family's got.
I know. With money he doesn't have.
Right.
Yes. And then, literally while that's happening, where Fred and George make the bet with Ludo Bagman, like Percy is like embarrassed in front of Mr. Crouch that his brothers are betting.
I know.
It's like,
yeah.
dude, you were betting with money you didn't have last year with your girlfriend, bro. Come on now.
Yep, I know. There are a couple of like interesting similarities, I feel like, between this match and the Quidditch World Cup. I mean, it doesn't end up panning out the same. You don't really have that like Victor Crumb catches the snitch, but Ireland wins situation. But I would argue that you have a Weasley betting on a Quidditch match that ends up in their favor. And I would say inside of the match, I feel like Harry is performing similarly to how Crumb is performing as well, complete with a potential Ronsky feint. Which
You're right.
We'll come back to in
You're
just a minute.
You know
Yeah.
what? As you're saying that, I'm pretty sure all Weasley bets on Quidditch matches have come back wins.
With gold.
With gold.
Man.
Mr. Weasley wins, Percy wins, and the twins win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
Wow.
All right. So next time
Here
you're
we
at
go.
the track, be sure to bring the Weasleys with
Yeah,
you.
don't bet
apparently.
against the Weasleys.
Yeah. At this point in time, though, Malfoy just can't stand it any longer, and him, Crabbe, and Goyle pop on over and ask Harry, "Are you sure you can manage that broom, Harry?" With just a voice of total and utter concern at the potential speed of this particular broomstick. I'm just kidding. It says in a cold, drawling voice.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though if he was just sort of like caring? He was like, "You sure you're gonna be okay, man?
You're going to be okay?
That's a lot of horsepower in there."
I mean, they're really good, but like they're kind of dangerous too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Then he also adds, "Shame it doesn't come with a parachute in case you get too near a Dementor." And at this point, I'm like, dude, I'm almost missing the creativity of your former insults because you've had one joke all year.
All year, and it's
All
getting,
year.
It's getting to be just a little bit annoying. But
Yes.
Crabbe and Goyle do snigger in this particular moment, and I think that that's clearly like a little bit of setup for the fact that they have something up their own sleeves.
Up there, yes.
But I love Harry's retort, which is, "Pity you can't attach an extra arm to yours, Malfoy," said Harry. "Then it could catch the snitch for you." And I was just like, "Oh snap!"
Oh, got him.
And then Harry spun the gun and stuck it back in his holster.
To which, if I was Malfoy, I'd be like, I just beat Ravenclaw. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And then Harry, like, "But they didn't have Cho."
They didn't have Cho. She was injured.
And then-
Oliver would tell me.
And then at that point in time, everybody watching on are like, "Okay, this has descended into just a terrible argument."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Neither of you are making good points.
Yes, yes.
Even if they didn't have Cho, he still caught it.
Right.
Anyway, so Harry is walking out. I just thought this was a funny sentence. He's carrying his wand with him into the match to, in case the Dementors show up. It says he stuck it inside the T-shirt he was going to wear under his Quidditch robe. And I'm like, where?
I know.
What do you mean you stuck it inside your T-shirt? Like
into
what T-shirt has wand-sized pockets in it?
Maybe he that little tag that they have for like how to properly launder the shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe he like looped it in there a couple times, stuck it in, and like twisted it around.
Yeah.
Put it through one of the belt loops on his shorts.
I know. It's like what an unnecessary information about where he's putting his wand. Like I don't have any trouble believing that the Quidditch robes just have a pocket on the inside where you could put the wand.
The idea of storing anything in a T-shirt seems like a misinformed sentence about T-shirts.
Like, you know what T-shirts are?
Right.
Anyway, so Harry makes it to the Quidditch pitch, and Harry couldn't help noticing, nervous as he was, that Cho Chang was extremely pretty. And so it begins.
Man.
Here we go. Sort of.
Yep. There it is. So that's the beginning. That is the start of the relationship. Let's see here. I do have a little note here. It was just that like Wood and Davies shake hands. So that's of course Roger Davies of House Ravenclaw, who will go on to be Fleur Delacour's Yule Ball date.
Right. And who will also ask Cho out, but who she will say no to.
I know. Yeah. I know. Oh man.
Boy.
This guy seems like a little bit of a player.
A little bit, man.
A Quidditch player. Am I right? That was a bad joke. I'm sorry, guys. I shouldn't have gone there. I take it back. Take it back. But yeah. Anyway, they mount their brooms on the whistle. 3, 2, 1.
Bam. And then Madam Hooch does the one thing she can do and start the match.
Yes.
So that gets going. And then Cho seems like despite the Slytherins not being sure about the Firebolt, the Ravenclaws have been preparing for it big time, because Cho has some actual Seeker v Seeker strategy she's employing, rather than she's more like playing against Harry than the Snitch.
Yes. Okay. Well, so this kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier. So I think when they're at practice, Oliver says I just found out the Ravenclaw's Seeker. It's Cho Chang. She rides a Comet 260. And I had actually written a note while I was reading that sentence that was I just never really imagined Quidditch as a sport that requires the Seekers to be adversaries in gameplay in the same way that the Chasers are actively playing a game of kind of like basketball, where you play offense then defense, and your speed relative to each other. If you're trying to chase somebody down who has the quaffle in front of you, having a faster broom is a distinct advantage.
Yeah.
It's that makes all the difference in the world. But the Seekers are kind of both playing their own game. It seems sort of independent out there.
Right.
So, but I wrote that down and I didn't bring it up then, and I'm bringing it up now. Because I feel once we actually get into the action, it's no. They are playing off each other for this whole match.
Absolutely.
Cho's strategy is basically to shadow Harry's every move.
Right.
So it's even if you can't outpace him, it's if you're right on his tail, then it's you're going to have a hard time beating him to the Snitch, but he's never going to be in a position where he's so far ahead that if you can spot it before him, maybe that gives you the leg.
Yeah, exactly. If you see it, or in the meantime, if he sees it before you, just cut him off.
Yes.
Just play don't let him catch it.
Which she does.
Yeah, which she does. She stops it a couple of times. So that's good. And then even fast forwarding too, speaking of Seeker versus Seeker, if you go to the Quidditch World Cup, Crumb is clearly this is what he does against Ireland.
Yes.
He does that's what the Wronski feint is. It's a Seeker diversion tactic where he tries to crash the other Seeker into the ground so he can look for the Snitch.
Would you at all describe it like this? He dived again, and Cho, thinking he'd seen the Snitch, tried to follow. Harry pulled out of the dive very sharply. She hurtled downwards. He rose fast as a bullet once more, and then he saw it for the third time.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly that, except Cho manages not to crash into the ground.
Exactly, but it's
it's the same maneuver.
It's the same maneuver. It's basically pretend you see it and see if you can crash them, and then use their time recovering on the ground to basically have a what do they call it in hockey, where somebody's in a power play.
Yeah, power play.
Yeah. I wrote that down. I was Harry, when he watches Crumb do it, he keeps remarking I can't wait to go and try the Wronski feint. And I'm I read that description. I was you've done it.
You've done it,
I
sir.
mean, maybe not as aggressively as like the best guy in the world.
Right.
But like just purely on instincts, you've basically invented the same move.
Yeah, right? Because Harry has good instincts.
Harry does have good instincts. And I think that there's actually a line here at some point in time that said that like diving was his speciality.
It does. I specifically underlined that. I was like, that's interesting.
I know. I was
Yeah.
like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like it's so rare at this stage in the books for Harry to stand out. Like, I mean, other than the fact that he's like the first year who's on the Quidditch team.
Yeah.
It's like, you almost feel like it's like, was he lucky or like?
It's like, yeah, he just had like a better broom the whole time.
Or yeah, exactly. But like, it's kind of cool to be like, no, this is something he's good at.
Yeah,
this is his thing, and even Harry knows it.
Even Harry knows it. Yes, he's good at that. But it seems like the rest of the Gryffindors are going well too, because very quickly into the match, Gryffindor leads 80-0. Like after almost no time at all has passed.
I know, and yeah, so that I thought that was really cool. But then on like the very next page, and this was another moment where I was like, this is a good Quidditch match because I feel like it's demonstrating the rules of Quidditch in a way that like makes more sense. Like it feels like higher stakes, but
yeah.
But basically, it says. Ravenclaw was pulling back. They had now scored 3 goals, which put Gryffindor only 50 points ahead. If Cho got the snitch before him, Ravenclaw would win.
Right.
And
which is also true at 80-0, but
oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
150 points for the snitch.
Yeah. So whether they had clawed those 3 goals back or not, they would still win.
You know what? I was giving too much credit, I think, maybe
Yeah.
just a little bit, because that's a really good point. I was like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm seeing like Quidditch make more sense now. Like that's the strategy. But you're right. It's like that 30 points makes literally no difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it would have been, this might have been like a more interesting match if it had been more like, because like Ravenclaw clearly was putting up the points on Slytherin, which is why it was a narrow victory, and Draco like had to catch the snitch in order to win the game for them.
Right.
It would have been interesting if like, oh yeah, no, the Ravenclaw chasers are like super good and they were putting up a ton of points on Gryffindor, and it was like, oh yeah, no, Cho, don't even worry about catching the snitch because you can't beat the Firebolt. Wait until we've scored more than 150, then go hunting for it.
Right.
You know, like that would have been a really cool strategy to like see them try and do.
It would be.
You know, then it's like, oh no, the Gryffindor chasers have to claw back.
Right.
So then Harry has to catch it at just the right moment.
That I feel like is the kind of Quidditch I want to see on like proud display. Like that's the type of thing where it's like you could almost like change the outcome of any of the matches for like the TV show just to like have it be like neck and neck, where it's like Harry see like a situation where the Seeker sees the snitch and is optionally choosing to not secure it.
Right.
It also makes me think that the game of Quidditch would play really nicely with the concept that is Moneyball, which in baseball was basically this one particular. There's a movie about it, obviously, but like it's the idea that like they are specifically looking for people who statistically get on base, and they are not necessarily like the best at any one particular thing. It's just like if statistically they get on base, even because they get walked very often.
Right. Doesn't matter.
Like, doesn't matter. They're on base. Like that's the whole point. So
right.
You're buying base time.
Yes.
I could almost see a world where with Quidditch, it's almost like resource management, like in like a board game, where it's like you can put all of your funds into a Seeker and have a good closer, or you can have a well-rounded batch of like chasers.
Yes.
But like a really, really, really good Seeker, very expensive. You're not going to be able to afford good chasers. Then it's all on the Seeker.
Right.
Anything happens to them and you're out.
Right.
You know, it's like the more well-rounded team would kind of have a mediocre Seeker and super-powered chasers.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And then it's like you can see where the keeper then still plays a big role with your chasers too, where it's like, you know, I think because we made that Oliver Wood video where we kept talking about the I loved just the sentence is like Slytherin narrowly defeated Ravenclaw, because it means the snitch capture really made the difference.
It did, yes.
But it meant that the Ravenclaw keeper was stopping the Slytherins from scoring, and if you'll remember, they're all riding 2001s.
Right.
So it's like you'd think they'd have the advantage, but even with their better broomsticks, the Ravenclaw keeper is like forcing Draco to catch the snitch because the no goals are getting in, and
Exactly.
the Ravenclaw chasers are still scoring.
Yeah, and I think that all even makes sense too. I mean, it probably goes to say just how formidable Ravenclaw would be otherwise, because their chasers are clearly doing quite well. Their keeper is obviously quite good, and they're playing without Cho.
Right.
So if they have Cho, I suspect they just demolish.
Right.
Slytherin.
Yeah, Slytherin probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
there's
There we
that.
go. There we go. So it could be, there could be more interesting things that happen in Quidditch.
I know. Yeah. It always just seems like such a silly sport.
I know. It's just like either the snitch just needs to be worth like less points.
Maybe
really.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It needs to be worth
yeah.
like 50 points or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Or the match. We just needed a longer match. The problem is that Harry's so good that they always catch it so soon that the points don't matter.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Anyway, before catching the snitch, though, we do get another just quality Oliver Wood moment where I guess maybe Wood is starting to pick up on a little bit of the eyeing of one another between Harry and Cho, to which Oliver says, "Harry, this is no time to be a gentleman." Wood roared as Harry swerved to avoid a collision. "Knock her off her broom if you have to."
Calm down, Oliver.
I know. I was like, Oliver, my man, my dude.
She just got back from injury.
I know. Also, it's not like Harry. I can't imagine a world where he knocks anybody off their broom.
Not at all. I know. Come on. Weren't you just like so hype on the Firebolt? You don't think Harry can do it, man?
I know.
Come on.
It goes
Come
to,
on.
yeah. I think Oliver's emotions get the best of him a little too often.
I think so.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. Just really wants to win.
He wants to win.
Anyway, eventually Harry sees the snitch and he hears Cho scream out because down below it looks like Dementors have shown up to another match.
Oh, you must be kidding me.
I know. What are the odds? Pretty low, turns out, even though Dumbledore is apparently not here. But this is crazy because Cho is behind. Here's what's happening. Harry has seen the snitch. He is going for it. Behind him, he hears Cho yell and point out the Dementors. Harry looks down while still chasing the snitch, sees them, pulls out his wand from his t-shirt.
I was going to say.
Then casts an active Patronus, which he does not see, at the three Dementors on the ground. Then, without ever losing track of the snitch, reaches up and grabs the snitch with his wand in his hand. It's a wild catch.
It's a wild.
Quite a maneuver. This is the most Harry Potter thing that has ever Harry Pottered.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's an epic match. Do you see what I mean? You don't think this is a good match?
No, this is a good match.
I think it's a great match.
I know, yeah. We can see some real secret play, It's very good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there it is, and they have successfully defeated Ravenclaw. I love the image in my head of all 6 scarlet blurs bearing down on him. So this is happening in the air. His team is hugging him that he's almost pulled off of his broom.
Yeah.
He can hear the roars of the Gryffindors down below. You got Wood yelling, "That's my boy!"
Yeah.
Which is just
Suddenly done a quick 180, haven't we, Oliver?
Yes.
I always knew you could do it.
You didn't need to knock her off her broom.
Come on
I
now.
was only joking.
Yep, Percy down there. 10 galleons to me. Must find Penelope.
I know.
Gonna go buy a new eagle quill.
Incidentally, this is also the moment that Percy becomes single again, oddly enough.
What do you know? Also, this is an interesting thing. Lupin comes up and says, that was quite some Patronus. So we can, this is the first time Harry has made the full-on prongs giant stag Patronus.
Yes, even though he didn't see it.
He doesn't see it, but literally everyone in the stadium must have.
Yes.
Including Lupin.
You have to imagine this was quite the spectacle.
Quite the spectacle. Interestingly, though, several books later, Lupin is going to use what form does your Patronus take as his security question with Harry, which, I don't know, not for nothing. It seems like the whole school knows.
Yeah, 200 people just witnessed
200.
it.
This is a very insecure question.
I know. Yeah. It's not the best.
Not a good.
The better question is the one where he's like, "What did I have in my classroom the day that you first?"
Much
something?"
better.
Yeah.
So,
what is
anyway.
it? Do you know?
Grindylow.
Grindylows. Anyway, that's amazing.
Yes.
But Harry is sort of like, and you hate this for him too inside of this particular moment, because he's like, Harry, who's been struggling with the Dementors for, most of the book, is so excited because he's like, they didn't affect me at all.
I know.
I didn't feel a thing. At which point the wool is taken off of his eyes, and Lupin says that would be because they were... They weren't Dementors.
Weren't Dementors. It seems like the Patronus, knocked them down.
Yes, I think so. I suspect that the Patronus has the ability to inflict physical contact, even if it wouldn't be the most ideal spell for most applications. In my mind, because I was thinking the same thing. It's not really a spell that's designed for hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, like I've never imagined it having like I imagine it can like touch the Dementors or drive them away because like they specifically like if they got that close to it, it would be as good as being touched by it.
Sure. Yes.
Right. But like I've never really thought like that if a Patronus like I never imagined being able to like touch a Patronus. Like maybe you could like feel it, but like I don't know, like could it physically push you? You know?
I think it must.
It seems like it must because
Yeah.
it knocks them down unless they're just like, whoa, what's that?
Which is also possible
Yeah.
because I think that they were like standing like 3 tall on each other's shoulders or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's maybe what's happening here is it just startled them so aggressively that they stumbled backwards and they weren't contacted at all. I just sort of assumed that it would just like kind of whoosh through them like a huge gust of wind or something.
Right.
Like, you know,
yeah.
that-
I mean, it's way more fun to imagine a giant buck just like impaling them with its light horns, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way
it's
better.
It's a super cool sentence.
Right, yeah.
I almost said a swear.
Yeah. But this I think is just crazy though. McGonagall comes out and she has seen the whole thing. She knows exactly what's up. She says, an unworthy trick, a low and cowardly attempt to sabotage the Gryffindor Seeker. 50 points from Slytherin. Like, I'm sorry, 50? Didn't you take 50 points per person away from Harry in their first year for being out of bed at night?
Yeah.
Like, didn't you say you'd never been more embarrassed by Gryffindor students? Like, it is so obvious what these 4 have done. Like, this should be minimum 50 each, right?
Yes. You know, and it's funny because like even as you were saying it, I was like, no, I think this is pretty solid, but you're right. It doesn't say 50 points each. It just says 50 points. So
Right.
That's not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough.
Yeah.
This is like so mean.
That's only
You know?
12 and a half points each.
I know. Come on now. What did they? Yeah, it's like, were they late to class?
Yeah.
Gosh.
I know.
No.
Yeah. Shoot
Anyway,
a spitball or something.
right, and this is where McGonagall says, I shall be speaking to Professor Dumbledore about this. Make no mistake. Here he comes now. And it's like, was Dumbledore not there? Well, how could he not be there?
Maybe he was. Maybe he was there. Maybe he was there based on that phrasing of here he comes now. So maybe he was just like he hadn't quite made it over. He was glad handing with the winning team, as it were.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
showing his support there. But either which way, yeah. So it's nice to see a little bit of justice finally hit Draco, because it does feel at times as if like Harry is constantly being caught like wrong-footed in front of the teachers, and this is a moment where it's just like Draco, just plain and simple, is caught.
I know, and I'm like, what is Draco thinking? How is he thinking this is going to go down?
It doesn't seem
Right?
like this would work out well. Like even if you got like, I mean, you know, if Harry did become negatively impacted by it or did fall off his broom, he would be like expelled.
Right.
Like
yes.
it'd be worse.
Right. Like, yeah, like best case scenario, you go out there and scare him into falling off his broom, scare him into losing the match, but then like there's no chance in which you are not caught for this.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You're gonna like you're gonna like somebody run away in the giant Dementor cloak. I
Right.
also love to think about them making the Dementor cloak. Like,
Yeah.
do you think they have like a sewing machine down in the Slytherin common room and they're just like, you know, Crab, we need more black thread.
I know. Come on now. Also, it's like it says there were 3 Dementors on the field, so I'm like, how did they do this? Was it Crab in one, Goyle in one, and then Draco on someone's shoulders?
Oh, that could be
Yeah,
it. Yeah, because
like-
they're always kind of described as being
Yeah.
quite large in stature.
Very big. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, they make it up to the Gryffindor common room where they're going to have an all-night party. Woohoo!
I know this does sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This did remind me a little bit of like cross country camp, like when we would order like pizzas, you know, and it was just sort of like the most independent thing you could possibly do was just, you know, use the $20 that you were sent to camp with to buy something like of your own accord.
Yeah.
And that's like what it reminded me of. I
Yeah.
was just like, yes, like that sweet feeling of like, we're having a party.
That's right.
Like, grab a slice. Or in this case, a butterbeer, pumpkin fizz, and several bags full of Honeydew sweets.
Yeah, boy, they got some money. They're moving here.
I know, yeah.
Maybe Percy gave them a 10-galleon loan. Unlikely.
That's not getting paid back.
Yeah, no, for sure. They dropped Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. Don't forget about them. Just a little reminder.
That's literally what I wrote. I was like, just remind us of these names. They're about to be very important in the next chapter, I think.
They sure are.
Yeah.
That only one person wasn't joining in the festivities. This is Hermione, which this is surprising even for her that she is not managing to do this, because, like, I'm sorry, even if you have 12 third-year classes, there's still no way it's more than, like, the 5th years or the 7th years and, like, the OWLs and their NEWTs. Like three, like, you have, 3 more classes? It's like, it can't be that much more homework.
I know, yeah.
You know?
Hermione is sitting out because she is overwhelmed, I think, by all of the various things that are going on. Like, I think that she says, like, I have 422 pages left to read.
I'm like, no, you don't.
There's just no way.
No professor has ever assigned 400 plus pages of reading between this class and the next class
over a weekend. Yeah. No.
No way. Although I love that she is reading, the book she's reading is called Home Life and Social Habits of British Muggles, because you know what? I would believe she doesn't know.
to me, yeah, because she's never home.
Because she's never home.
Yeah, I know. No, yeah, that to me is the dead giveaway that Hermione is sitting out because she's trying to make more of a point. She's trying to maybe get, like, Ron's attention or Harry's attention or
could be
anybody to go and like, I don't know if she's trying to get somebody to check on her, but I think the fact that that's the book she's reading, I'm like, Hermione, you've been a muggle your whole life.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's no way you are, like, swamped reading about your own lifestyle.
Right. And then there's no way the assignment was 422 pages. Like, if you are deciding to read the entire book because you want to get ahead, then, I mean, good for you, but, like, no one's making you do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not that Ron is in a forgiving mood either, surprisingly. Instead, he is loudly looking over at Hermione, saying, if Scabbers hadn't just been eaten, he could have had some of these fudge flies. Like, were you feeding Scabbers fudge flies? Why?
Altogether, I don't think that's
true.
The only thing I enjoy about that is that it means that Ron was feeding Peter flies.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, this is one of those situations where it's like, Ron, like, you should be happy enough by the outcome of the day's events that you are not still thinking about the rat, dude, that you definitely did not like.
Just shut up about your rat. At this point, it's like the tide is starting. Like, earlier, I was more on your side, and now I'm like, dude, get over it.
Yeah, you might need to let this one go.
You gotta let it go. But then this evening, after they go to bed, Harry has a very interesting dream that, goodness me, did I not remember him having.
Dude, same here, because it is oddly reminiscent of another scene we will see in Deathly Hallows.
Exactly. Yes. So here's the dream. He was walking through a forest, his firebolt over his shoulder, following something silvery white. It was winding its way through the trees ahead, and he could only catch glimpses of it between the leaves. Anxious to catch up with it, he sped up, but as he moved faster, so did Harry. It moved faster. Harry broke into a run, and ahead he heard hooves gathering speed. Now he was running flat out, and again he could hear galloping. Then he turned a corner into a clearing, and Ron wakes up. So I'm not sure if you're just supposed to be like, if this is supposed to be like just the tiniest hint that his Patronus has hooves or something.
I know. I highlighted, like, the hooves gathering speed and the galloping, and I was just like, prongs? Like, is Prongs the Patronus, like, almost like visiting his dream? But I mean, the fact that he's even, like, in the forest in the dream, I mean, that's like he's in is it the Forest of Dean?
Yeah,
where he is when he's following the silvery white doe, the doe Patronus from Snape. It just seems like it's almost, I don't know, like foreshadowing or something.
It looks like it's if the only 3 books were out and you read, and this is like your second pass of the book, you would absolutely just assume this is Harry's own Patronus, that it's Prongs, whatever. But after you've read the whole series, this absolutely just looks like it's foreshadowing for Deathly Hallows when Snape casts the doe Patronus in the Forest of Dean, because that is literally when Harry is following something silvery white winding its way through the trees ahead. Like, and it says, he can only catch glimpses of it between the leaves. Harry literally, like, catches, like, a glimpse of like Snape in the woods. He just doesn't know who it is.
Right.
You know,
yes,
like
yeah.
that happens, and he just can't figure out. You know, and then I don't know. Otherwise, if it's not foreshadowing, then all it's doing, the only point of this dream is that all you know is that Harry's Patronus has hooves. That's the only other thing it really gets.
Which doesn't really help. Like it's not like later on in the story when you discover that his Patronus is a stag, you're like, well, that came out of nowhere. Like I've never had that sensation towards it. I don't think that this is helping me feel more at peace with the selection of the stag as a creature.
Right. It's not like you're suddenly like, oh, now I can solve for prongs, you know?
Even that, yeah, because you're right. Like the prongs, to me, is speaking to the antlers on the stag, not any other physical attribute. So, yeah, no, I don't get a whole lot out of that. And not to mention, it's almost like, it's not even like necessarily like a mystery. Like the whole school actually now knows what his Patronus form is. He's the one who doesn't.
He's the one who doesn't. Yeah, it's like, I can't believe no one told him.
I know.
Honestly.
The other thing is, like, why, I don't know, like, what would cause him to dream about it? Like, is that like James coursing through him somehow, or like I don't know. I don't have a good explanation for why this dream happens.
Yes, because you're right. Either it's James he's following through the woods in a way, or it's Lily in a way. Yeah. So yeah, it's a weird one. I think to me it just reads a lot more as like foreshadowing for Deathly Hallows. Although why it shows up right here, I don't know.
Shy of the fact that he's just cast it for the first time. So like unless something to do with like casting your first corporeal Patronus like almost like unlocks something. Yeah. But he's not thinking about his parents when he casts it. It's not like a James or Lily related scene. It's not a particularly heavy Snape chapter at all.
Could you argue that because he knows it has hooves, this is how Time Turner Harry realizes he's the one who cast the Patronus? Like, because he remembers seeing the stag the first time and he's like, oh, it has hooves, I cast it.
Right. I mean, kind of like it was in me all along.
Like, yeah.
Type of thing, maybe.
It doesn't feel like he needs this hint, though, to get there. I know. Because he sees who he thinks is James, and then it seems like what he really realizes is, oh, I didn't say my dad, I saw me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of like his dad is in him, so to speak, like spiritually or metaphorically.
Yeah.
And that is sort of like what's happening later when he casts it, is that like he thinks it's his dad, but it's him, and that's supposed to be, and like the fact that his Patronus reflects his father's animagus form, like like those things are being like tied together a little bit. This is kind of like one of those things where there's a little bit of a abandoned storyline, in my opinion, when it comes to James and how Harry relates to him. Like it does seem to take like a hard right turn at some point in time where you just sort of learn that like why Snape and James are such adversaries with one another, and it's like you never really discover a whole lot that suggests that like Harry's goodness like comes from anywhere other than like Lily, so specifically. Yeah. So I don't really know. But then the very next thing that we are interrupted with before we get to see what's in that clearing, though, is maybe the most comically long onomatopoeia I have ever seen in any written text ever. Yeah. If you just want something really hilarious to listen to, go to chapter 13 of Jim Dale's recording about 7/8 of the way through the chapter, and listen to Ron's no. Apologies to anybody who was sleeping.
Oh my god!
For that, it goes on forever.
Yeah,
and I was listening at 2x speed.
Yeah,
it's a long
yell.
He pronounces every single A. And
gotta get them all.
I think there's 13 of them.
Yep. Goodness. So Ron is awoken. He sees Sirius Black standing above him with a knife.
Terrifying.
Slash the curtains. I know. Very scary for sure, no matter what.
Do you think it's the knife that he gives Harry, the one that can unlock doors?
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like, I was like, can we connect Sirius Black to any knives? And I was like, we actually can.
He would have had to get into the room.
He would have had to get into the room.
Yeah.
Presumably locked.
Presumably.
I mean, we know he gets to the portrait hole, but that requires a password.
That requires the password, but then he gets into the room. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same blade.
All right, same blade as far as I'm concerned.
Headcanon. It's not hurting anybody other than the hangings.
Yes, other than the curtain hangings. So he screams, and then he scampers, I guess, gets out of there real fast. And then Ron is rushing down, apparently just continuing to scream at the top of his lungs because not 3 seconds later does McGonagall show up somehow.
And there has to be the case there's a portrait that like looks in on the Gryffindor common room to let her know if students are like out of bed when they're not supposed to be.
I know, it's got to be something like that. But then you'd think that portrait would have told her like Sirius Black,
True.
Right. Here's my thought is that the fireplace flue is like open and she can like hear through it.
Oh,
yeah.
She got to sleep with a crackling fire every night.
Yeah,
That's not so bad.
That's not so bad, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That was pretty fun.
That's really good.
So yeah, she shows up pretty quickly. I love how everyone's coming downstairs and someone says, Professor McGonagall told us to go to bed, and I was like, shut up, Percy. But then it actually doesn't say who said that. But then 2 lines later, Percy says something else, and he's just hurrying in. So who was this other narc down here? Like, is that? I'm like, I don't know.
Unnamed Gryffindor, third
Gryffindor,
year.
Penelope Clearwater sleeping on the couch.
Yeah. Oh man, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. I do love the fact though that when Percy does enter the scene, he's actively pinning his head boy badge onto his pajamas.
I know.
Which all I could picture is almost like in like a bad like cop drama or something. Them getting like the call in the middle of the night, and like the partner in bed or whatever is like, everything okay? And it's like, I'm being called in, and it's like, and Percy's like, he like sits up and he's almost like, yeah, got to clip on my badge.
I didn't authorize this, McGonagall.
Yes.
I didn't authorize this.
I know. Yeah, McGonagall's frustrated with him.
I'm trying to imagine a world where what he thinks is going on is what's going on. Where it's like actually a party, and they're like, McGonagall told us to bed. Should we keep partying? Maybe we should check with Percy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Percy's like, they show up at Percy's, it is like, authorized.
It's going to be just fine.
Thanks for checking with me.
You guys enjoy those peppermint toads.
Yeah, exactly.
Percy's reaction though, I think it's very interesting to me because it actually reminds me so much of how like Fudge responds to things in the future. So basically, Ron, who has just almost been attacked by somebody they all believe, including McGonagall, to be a dangerous killer. Ron has very reason to be freaked out in this particular instance. And without asking for any more information at all, Percy's reaction is nonsense. You had too much to eat, Ron. Had a nightmare.
I know.
And it's like that is so like Fudge. It's just like you're not asking him for details or anything else that like went on, or like what makes you think you saw him, or like what happened.
And it's also like this would be the second time that it had happened, so it's like it's not coming out of nowhere.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I kind of like Ron's reaction because almost all of the Weasley brothers are giving Percy a nonstop hard time.
Yes.
But in this moment where Sirius Black has actually broken in, Ron is like, Sirius Black in our dormitory. Like he's like, yeah, okay. All joking aside, I do respect you right now, and I'm like actually asking you for help.
I need you as the authority figure to be the person who hears me.
And like the one time Percy's authority is needed, he dismisses it.
I know, but I mean that's exactly what I mean. Like this feels exactly like Fudge, where it's like he wants the title, he wants the importance, he wants to be on the cover of the Ministry for like opening whatever, clipping ribbons and kissing babies and all that type of stuff, but he doesn't want to actually have to deal with the real problems.
Yeah.
And that's Percy. Like Percy like puffs himself up with self-importance all the time, and it's like there's an actual problem here. Yeah. Sort of. And I think either way Sirius is definitely in the wrong for doing this in this capacity. Even though he's not an actual killer. And Percy is just completely glazing right over it. It's like, no, dude, this is your moment.
This is your moment.
Yeah.
Come on, you could have been great here. Anyway, Ron brings up a very good point. He just says, why don't you ask Sir Cadogan whether he lets somebody in? And McGonagall, you can tell, is giving him this real skeptical look, like, all right, fine.
It's
fine.
That's easy
I'll
enough.
play ball.
Yes.
Let me go talk to the painting. Sir Cadogan, did you let anyone in? Yes. What?
Certainly, good lady,
Yeah.
cried Sir Duggan. I like the guy never misses a beat. Like,
Yeah.
nothing if not excited at all times.
He's on duty.
Yes.
Yep. I love how he doesn't think it's suspicious at all that he had the whole week's worth of passwords written off a little piece of paper. Like, dude, come on. Dude. You know why you're here. You know what he looks like.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yes, you were specifically doing this job because of this very person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then McGonagall, of course, says, this is a tough one if you're Neville.
Oh, I know.
Which abysmally foolish person wrote down this week's passwords and left them lying around?
Oh.
There was utter silence, broken by the smallest of terrified squeaks. Neville Longbottom, trembling from head to fluffy slippered toes, raised his hand slowly into the air.
It's especially bad because he didn't even leave them. I know. Oh, good drawing.
Thanks. I drew a little Neville.
He didn't even leave them laying around. Like, he was responsible with them. Like, Crookshanks literally stole them from him.
Poor Neville.
I know.
That's a real, like, why is it always me?
Why is it always me?
It really is always you, Neville. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
pal. I'm so sorry.
Really unfortunate. It's surprising to me that, like Crookshanks, you'd think would be pretty aware of the argument between Ron and Hermione.
Yep.
Right? And Crookshanks would be pretty aware that he did not kill Scabbers, but that Scabbers is apparently missing. Right?
Right.
So if he's talking to Sirius, it's surprising to me that Sirius does this. Like, why doesn't, like, it seems like, why wouldn't Crookshanks tell Sirius that Scabbers isn't there?
That's a good point.
You know?
That's a good point.
It seems like he should know.
I guess we don't know how fluently they're able to communicate. I mean,
I guess
like,
that's, yeah.
You know, I don't know to what extent. Like, obviously they have a rapport that's rather significant. We'll see that continue for their whole relationship. But it's like, you know, is it kind of like as dog, as cat, we have the ability to like sort of send information back and forth with one another, but maybe not have like full-blown conversation, so it's harder to get that piece of information. I don't really know. But you're right. Like, you would at this point in time think that Crookshanks would have had every opportunity to observe the fact that Hermione and Ron are fighting and that the thing is taken care of. If anything, it almost even seems like Crookshanks could probably help solve the problem. I mean, I'm sure Ron doesn't want Crookshanks near him, but Crookshanks probably could just start to like warm up to Ron at this point and just like be nicer.
Probably could.
Yeah.
I guess I can also see a scenario where like Sirius gets this information and he's like, no, I have to see it for myself.
That's also true. I
Yeah.
mean, we know that Sirius is a little brash at the best of times. Like even when he's like in you know, comfortably living and not having just escaped Azkaban and on the run and, you know, living off of scraps and stuff like that. Like, you know, so and in this particular case, he has every reason just to sort of be like unhinged, to say the least. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like, no, got to see it for myself. Can't believe the cat.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm taking this one into my own hands.
I'm not putting all. Yeah, I can see that. I'm not putting all of my eggs in this cat's basket.
Yes,
right?
precisely. But either which way, I do think that brings us to the end of chapter 13 and sets us up for our chapter 14, Snape's Grudge.
I know, which has got some truly great chapter art on it of one Severus Snape.
Yeah, we'll
talk about that next
week.
time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there you go. Do you have a review for us?
I sure do, Ben. Let's see here. This is from Wisdom Keeping Ravenclaw. It says, "Hey, brother, absolutely love the SCB channel as well as the podcast. It gives me something to look forward to every week. I have a question that I think you'll find interesting. What if Voldemort stunned James instead of killing him? Would James have become a Horcrux instead of Harry? Would Voldemort's soul have split in half and went into both of them? Would Dumbledore still have Harry live with the Dursleys, or would they have somehow fixed up the Potter's house and put the Fidelius charm back over their house and become their secret keeper?" So basically, what if James wasn't killed?
What if James wasn't killed? Okay, so I think that the quick off the cuff response to me is, and I know that this is not in the nature of the question, but it seems like really the only reason why Voldemort shows Lily any mercy whatsoever at all is on Snape's request.
Yes.
And so it's like, otherwise, he kills both of them right away.
Right away,
Like,
no matter what.
No holds. So I don't think that there's any situation, given the circumstances and the potential to complete the prophecy on behalf of from Voldemort's perspective, I don't see any world where he ever doesn't shoot to kill.
Okay, so imagine, I suppose, a world where it's later at night and James and Lily are just in bed and Voldemort comes. And
doesn't need to kill them.
Yeah, they're just not obstacles.
They're not obstacles. Oh yeah. That's totally fair. And I was gonna say, just that would be like my first layer of sort of like, like, is there a reason why Voldemort didn't just like stun him? It's like I think it's probably just because Voldemort is Voldemort.
Oh, Voldemort's Voldemort.
He was on a warpath.
Yeah.
But so that was all I was gonna say there. So anyway, which way? Yeah. So let's say he's stunned. In which case, I've always sort of read it, and again, and I'm sure everybody imagines the Potter's house slightly differently. I've always sort of imagined it as if he enters through like a door. They're on the first floor of the house, which is to say like the ground floor, which is where James is in the living room playing with Harry. He basically hands Harry to Lily, who runs up the stairs of the house, and James is killed in that particular location. And then everything else happens in Harry's nursery.
Yeah.
Is that how you picture it as well? Like up the stairs? Mm-hmm. Okay. So on some level, there's a piece of me that would also kind of go to the, like, I don't know that Voldemort's soul would split so far, like, physically speaking.
I don't think it goes to James.
I don't think it goes to James. That would seem surprising for it to go into both of them.
Yeah.
Plus, I also think it going into Harry is part of the prophecy. Like, it's only as inevitable as anybody puts stock into it, which Voldemort does, and therefore it will always will.
Yes,
like,
it will always will.
Bad sentence, but point comes across hopefully. So I think it's always Harry that would have the piece of it. The interesting question to me from there, though, is let's say James wakes up, Lily is dead, Harry is hurt, and the house is half exploded.
Yeah.
At that point, what happens?
Let's see. So Voldemort falls.
Sirius
is checking on Peter because he has just a bad feeling that night.
Yes.
Sirius and Hagrid will both show up at the house still.
Yes, because nobody would know otherwise that James was already dead.
Right. Yeah. That like him being alive doesn't really change it.
So imagine Sirius shows up to find a stunned James,
who's maybe come around by now.
Yes.
Right. So now Sirius and James both know what's up. They both know about Peter.
Yeah, because
then Hagrid shows up. So I kind of feel like Sirius and James are both like, "Hey, Hagrid. Do you mind holding Harry? We have some business."
I think you are correct.
Yeah.
I think that they would be. I think the reaction would be more like just as intense, but more level in nature versus like Sirius's general hysteria. Like I think that James and Sirius would be like, you just basically kicked the hornet's nest in the most violent way humanly possible. Your Dark Lord Master is gone, and we know.
Oh yeah, we know what you did.
Yeah,
because those are the only two people who know about Peter anyway.
Right.
Then Peter is presumably still cornered by now the two of them instead of just the one. But
James would be there to testify as to what happened, and I guess.
Or does he survive the encounter with Peter?
Oh, see that.
Does he die anyway?
But why would he go there? Why would why would anybody like looking on trying to like suss out what happened be like, why would James go with Sirius to attack Peter?
Right, that's true.
So like Sirius would look less suspicious.
Right. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so they're both there. Let's say Peter pulls the exact same
move.
But he can't pull the exact same move. He can't say like, because what he says is like, how could you betray your friend, Sirius? Like he yells that for everyone. He's trying to like say it was Sirius who betrayed them, and then he blows up the city block, turns into a rat, cuts off his finger, and escapes. And so it looks like he has been blown up, and that Sirius killed him and all the people.
Right.
And all the witnesses heard Peter accuse Sirius.
Right. But Sirius doesn't die in that instance, so I don't think
Right.
Sirius or James would die
Right.
in the same instance. But I do think they would both be there, and I do think Peter would do the same thing. He would have nowhere to go.
Right. It seems so much. I mean, it seems unlikely that Peter gets the better of Sirius anyway, but it seems really unlikely he gets the better of both of them.
Both of them, yeah, that's a good point. So,
and even if he escapes, you're right. Like, unless he also, I mean, even if he kills James, even if he kills James, and the situation is the same, orphan Harry, the difference is now James is there and has clearly been killed.
No, James hasn't been killed.
No, well, okay. But like if they corner both of them, and Peter manages to kill James,
oh sure,
right? Then I guess it could make it look like Sirius killed James there.
I mean, it would be
which is already what people believe he was trying to do,
right?
But
right.
if they both live, then they can just say it was Peter the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which would get Peter. Yeah, Sirius would never be tossed into prison. Voldemort would still fall. You would still have James and Sirius who could, James could still raise Harry. No reason not to.
No reason not to. They could absolutely reveal that Peter was a rat.
I think at this point in time, there's a decent chance that James, Sirius, because I think you would have James who would have a fire lit clean underneath him. I'm trying to think if there's a world where they attempt to start understanding Voldemort's immortality sooner and potentially go and hunt him in the forest of Albania.
Right, because there's rumors of it.
There's rumors, and I think it's almost let sleeping dogs lie, don't tickle a sleeping dragon.
Right.
Yeah, maybe his spirit's out there somewhere, but what's it going to do to anybody? Just let it go. But I think James would be, at the loss of Lily, furious.
Absolutely.
And so I suspect that one way or another, there's maybe someone who would need to still watch over Harry, because I could almost see Dumbledore, James, and Sirius almost doing secret ops type missions.
I can't imagine he doesn't still raise Harry though.
Well, I think he would try to raise Harry, but at that point in time, does he try to? The real question would be whether or not Dumbledore would reveal to James the contents of the prophecy and what Harry's role in it is supposed to be, because that could buy another chunk of time that would be required for Harry to be involved in that. Mm-hmm. But maybe then instead of ever going to school, Harry is just like day one is you turned 11, you're now in the Order of the Phoenix.
Right, yeah.
It's we're going to teach you.
I wonder if the Potters knew anyway. Could they have known the contents of the prophecy? Why are we being hidden? Or was it just sort of no, we know Voldemort's specifically targeting you, let's hide you?
Hard to know. Hard to know, because I think because they die, and I think Dumbledore eventually says there's only one person alive who knows the full contents of the prophecy, and it's me, soon to be you. So Dumbledore tells Harry is the only other living person who's ever known it.
Yes.
In its entirety.
Right. That's if he says that, it makes it sound like I would say they didn't know, because before Snape confirms that Voldemort is targeting the Potters, Dumbledore doesn't know whether it's Harry or Neville.
Right.
And he would have hidden both families.
Yep.
But if he tells Harry that there's no living people who know what the prophecy says,
then
the Longbottoms would know.
They would know too.
They would know. Not that they would really be able to do anything about it.
No, not necessarily. But it also, even just as you described that scenario, because I agree with you, he would have to tell the same information to both the Longbottoms and the Potters. Telling 4 people, it seems too much of a liability.
It does.
That's too many cracks.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he would tell them that. So okay, so that's the thinker then, is sort of what does the world look like where you have James? It seems fun to imagine a world where James and Sirius are both in prime wizard form and just properly angered.
Right. And Voldemort's sort of fallen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose Lupin too.
Lupin too. Because
because they were Sirius was unsure of Lupin as the spy, but now they know for sure it was Peter.
Now they know for sure it's
They're
Peter.
probably trying to hunt down Peter.
I think basically what you end up having is a series that is about James, Sirius, and Lupin. I think this is the Marauder series people have always asked for.
Right.
You know, you would see the three of them as highly trained, highly powerful, defense against the dark arts oriented wizards who have every reason to be on a die-hard mission. And yeah, I think they hunt down Peter. Peter's doomed. Almost certainly goes to Azkaban. And then I suspect at this point in time, this is where James and Sirius, I think, would not let Dumbledore sit quiet and just like wait for what happens next. I think they would want to go on the offensive.
Right. I think, yes, where Dumbledore clearly was willing to let sleeping dogs lie, I don't think James and Sirius would.
Correct. I agree. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I think somehow, some way they have to, it's like, you know, you can't do it quickly, but they would have to figure out Horcruxes, at which point I think they start hunting for them.
That could be the case.
Which would be pretty epic.
Yeah.
To watch, like, you know, like that's always one of the things about Deathly Hallows that gets me is that like they're just not quite trained enough to be formidable enough to go out there and have like really cool action scenes like hunting Horcruxes. It's almost like they have some convenience, some luck, some contacts that get them through doors they shouldn't have access to.
Right.
What have you.
Oh, man, and they could get to the locket, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Yes.
You'd think if they were like really...
Well, they wouldn't have the diary. The diary would be the thing. That's normally what
Yeah.
tips Dumbledore off to the usage of them, which would put them in the dark in the beginning. But I have to imagine at some point in time...
But Creature still knows. Creature still knows. Not that Sirius is being super nice to him ever. But I know, but Creature does know. That's the possible leak.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Is there a world in honor of like I'm stretching here for sure. I know it, but like in honor of like Lily that they would respect her. We don't know that Lily had any relationship with house elves specifically, but I imagine her kindness would be more in line with like Hermione's perspective on.
Yeah, you think
thing.
something like that. It doesn't. Yeah,
we don't know that.
We
can't base anything off that.
Right.
Okay.
What other? The locket's the one they'll have the most access to for sure because it's literally at Sirius's house.
It's literally there. That's true.
It's there.
Yeah. So that's a good thing too. So Mundungus can't throw it away, but they wouldn't know that it's the fake one until they've gotten through the whole cave. But Dumbledore would have the information from Wool's orphanage where he goes and interviews.
They wouldn't. But if they talk to Creature, they won't even have to go to the cave.
If they talk to Creature.
Yeah, if they figure that out.
Right.
But otherwise, how they're going to figure out the locket at all? It's going to be so hard.
Well, Dumbledore knows that the orphanage used to take them to the seaside, and that Voldemort collected, trinkets
trophies
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think like this is it's exactly to me like the situation with the 7 Horcruxes from Slughorn's memory, where it's like, is it really that important of a memory? Like it gives you a start and an end. It lets you know like what the finale is supposed to look like.
They would know Slughorn.
They would know Slughorn. Yeah.
Yes.
They would know Slughorn.
Slughorn. He's a big deal all of a sudden.
Yes, he's very important.
Because he liked Lily, and now she's dead. Ooh.
Oh, maybe. Oh, yep. And the way that Harry gets through to Slughorn in Hagrid's hut is by using Lily's memory.
Yeah.
And so I think they go to him if they can figure it out to go to him.
Yes.
And I think in the same vein, because all Felix is doing is guiding Harry on what will work. It's not creating otherwise magic. It's not magically making Slughorn. It's just telling Harry what he needs to do to get him to say it. James would make that argument.
Yeah.
He would know that Lily was in the Slug Club.
Absolutely.
And that he was a favorite.
And I mean, this is in a post-Voldemort world where now just Lily is dead. So like James has a funeral for Lily.
Yeah.
Which Slughorn almost definitely attends.
Definitely would attend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Slughorn and Creature are the two access points to the Horcruxes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got that. You could possibly backpedal a world where, because that would get you started at the very least. And I think if Dumbledore could discover the Horcrux in the first place, any of them, then I think he could get to the bottom of that conclusion. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're up against.
That's assuming Dumbledore's helping them.
How would he not be helping him?
I don't know. I feel like because we know in the main story, Dumbledore doesn't start doing any of this research until the diary.
Yes, but this time it's different. Like, I mean, that's the difference between a world that has James in it and a world that doesn't.
Right.
Is the intensity at which somebody's going to act on it. Because Dumbledore is like, he's already lost his parents. We need to at least give him a shot at a childhood.
Right.
Like, but I don't think that that's Dumbledore's decision to make if James is still alive.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Because I also don't know if you can do it without Dumbledore.
Well, I can see it just feels very maraudery for Dumbledore to be like, guys, just chill. Like,
it does seem
we'll
like
wait.
that. Yeah.
Like, just focus on raising Harry. That's the important thing right here. Voldemort's not a threat right now because Dumbledore will still know that it still has to be Harry no matter what you do. So I can see him being like, don't do it. And then them being like, well, we're doing it anyway.
Guess what?
Guess what? Time to break your rules some more.
Yes. Marauder's going to marauder.
Exactly. Marauder's going to maraud, you know?
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I mean, to me, like, this is what it comes back to again and again and again. Like, whenever people talk about like the TV shows or like the idea of having like the Marauders series, the only thing that ever like takes away from the Marauders to me is like we know their eventual outcomes so set in stone. So like, unless you can have really good narratives that just make those characters so darn lovable that it's just really fun to watch it unfold, like, it's difficult. But this is where I feel like the world of Harry Potter can be cracked open if the people in charge would be willing to take the keys and start to like unlock other pathways.
Yeah.
Because
some more what ifs, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Explore the what ifs, because I think that like the world, you know, would love to see James and Sirius, but like James and Sirius in a world where we don't know what happens to them.
Right.
And this would be, and Lupin. And this would be a way to see those three characters on proud display and using all of the elements that we already know are there and really having fun with it.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Boom. Man, I did not expect that question to take that pathway.
I know. Me neither. I was like, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I felt like, we spent a long time discussing that one.
I know. Hopefully people enjoyed it.
That's okay. Yeah, that was us just trying to work through it in real time. This is which is how a lot of our what if scenarios go.
True.
Like, but what about Slughorn? No. Yeah.
Could it be? Yes. No. Yes.
He would be there. Funeral? Why wouldn't that happen? Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, that's going to do it for this week. But make sure you join us next week for Chapter 14, Snape's Grudge on Through the Gryffindor.
Today's episode was edited by Ethan Edghill. Vaishon Brandon does our art. Catherine Stein is our production manager, and the show is hosted by me and Jonathan Carlin.